What's up, y'all? Sounds like you've had an exciting day already. Unfortunately, I didn't get to tune into too many of the talks or the speaking, but I read through the brochure or whatever you guys received to advertise this event, and it looks really exciting and interesting. So high school, I wish I could go back to high school and like have this kind of conference, because I would have known, a little bit sooner than I did what maybe my passions lie with design. So hopefully some of you all are getting that experience right now and excited to potentially have a career in tech. But my name is Hayden Mills, and this little chat we'll have is about design. So that's me drinking a smoothie from Smoothie King, and that's my wife, Sydney, hanging out at some kind of barn. But last chance here to switch rooms or go somewhere else. This is called the design process, and how you get an idea, whether it's sketched on a napkin or something in your mind. How do you get that idea to actually a real working app? I'm going to walk through a few things about myself first, and then I'm going to help y'all understand maybe a little bit better about what it's like to build your idea into a real app. I saw earlier there was people talking about the same thing, so it's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't want to listen to this or you want to go somewhere else to see something else. So do that if so. But basically my whole goal here is to help you maybe color in some of the in-between from how you get something out of your head into a real working, app or website. And I'm going to do that by telling a story of how we built a product at Relay, the company I work at. So like I said, my name's Hayden Mills, and I'm a UX designer. So here's my natural habitat every day. Because of COVID, obviously we're all working remotely. As you guys go to school remotely, we're working from our homes. So actually what I'm sitting in is one of the reasons we built this studio out here, the shed, is for me to work remotely. So I'm sitting in a shed right now out in the backyard, and hopefully the Wi-Fi still works well. We'll see. But yeah, that's me. It looks lonely. It's not, because we use tools like Slack to keep up to date, but we're a small startup called Relay, so we're pretty small in general. But here's some quick facts about me so we can all be friends. I live on 16th Street going towards Speedway, the racetrack. This is a cool sketch one of our friends did of our house. So we live in a little blue house. As I mentioned, I work at a tech startup here in Indianapolis called Relay. I also work part-time for a tech boot camp. It's called Kinsey Academy. So if anybody's heard of that or is interested in that, let me know and I can connect you there. Nextech actually used to be in the same space as them downtown. So maybe you all have heard about them. Like I said, I'm building, or currently with my wife, building a home backyard shed. So that's an interesting fact about me. And I'm a born and bred Hoosier. So here's the shed I'm sitting in right now. As well as being a designer, I like to build things. I've always built things. So this is the shed. If you have any shed questions, save them for later. I can hook you up with how we did it. This is actually what you're seeing in the background here is pretty much a finished shed. So it's heated. It's a cool little interest that we've been able to work on through COVID, obviously not being able to travel anywhere. So looks like we have a few questions already coming in. So that's awesome, Samuel. Thanks for posting that question. We'll get to it at the end. I encourage y'all, post questions and stuff. So here's kind of my career so far. Went to school at IU, Indiana University. Go Hoosiers. Also got my master's degree there. Then I traveled to Canada to work in Canada at a company called Shopify. And then I worked at different companies. Maybe some of these make or sound familiar, maybe them don't. Here's the Kinsey Academy. I actually worked for Nextech for a summer. So shout out Karen and Stephanie and the others that still work for Nextech. And thanks for that opportunity. Started a few companies of my own, also interned or worked at different startups in Bloomington when I was at school. So that's kind of background. I'm still young like y'all, I think, maybe probably years, maybe more than being in high school, but I'm still fairly young. Here's the people that I help mentor and work with at Nextech, the Catapult program. Maybe some of you all have heard about it. Obviously with COVID, it's probably a little different now, but yeah, a summer program for high schoolers learning to code. So this was me and hanging out with Nigel and a bunch of other learning to code. So this is a break for you all to help me with something. You probably heard of TikTok. I am too old to be very well versed on TikTok. So funny TikTok accounts to follow, or any TikTok videos that you really think are funny, I need those to be sent in the comment section. I know it's kind of going against what they told you to do, only ask questions, but I need some references. So if you have any good TikTok videos that are absolutely hilarious, or any accounts that you follow that are hilarious, go ahead and take a moment, the chill break right here, and send them in the chat. I might not be able to see them right now. I don't know if we're gonna post them in my area here, but send me some cool TikTok videos. But please do not get lost in TikTok, because it's designed in a way that you just get lost. So do that really quickly. and we'll get back to the meat and potatoes here. Looks like we got some TikTok suggestions rolling in, potentially, maybe not. I can't see the chat actually, so if y'all got some TikTok swag, send it over my way. But we'll begin and continue on here. I know it's been a long day already for y'all, so I'll try to get through this and make it fun here. So before I actually hop into the story about how you take an idea from your head or from a piece of paper or a whiteboard and get that to a full working app, I'm just going to help define some terms for us. And you'll hear me talking about these, so I wanted to define them before we actually get into the story, so you maybe are familiar with some of these. But my goal is to make everybody understand and hopefully be on the same page here as I talk about the topic with these definitions in mind. So sketching ideas, when I mentioned that, that's as simple as, you're sketching an idea on a piece of paper or an iPad or whatever way you communicate through drawing. So, tech startup before COVID, we'd have lots of whiteboards and stuff. Oh, sweet. We got a lot of TikTok suggestions coming. I love that. Thank you. So that's as simple as that, right? No one probably gets confused with that. High fidelity designs mean, it's another word for like really well designed, high quality, looks like a real app designs. So as a designer, sometimes we're tasked with doing really quick mock-ups, really quick drawings to communicate an idea for the whole team. And other times we're really tasked with making it look real. So we use tools like Figma or Sketch or Photoshop to make designs look real, but they don't actually work. It's paint over a fence, right? So that's what I mean when I say high fidelity. And when I say low fidelity, that's the opposite of that, right? That's like dang near sketching the idea, like really quick, rough drawings. So when I talk about design changes or iterations, that basically is me talking about, you switch things up, you change all the time. So one screen might look like something for a while, and then, you get feedback from users and they want it to be different. So you change that. Maybe it's visual, maybe it's the way people navigate the screens, maybe it's an experience you edit. User research and testing is literally just talking to people and seeing if they like and can use your app. App development is maybe what some of y'all are learning in your computer science, building and coding, like the hackers do. You're actually building the app. So that's what that means. App testing and beta launch, you've probably heard these before, read articles about them maybe in your school. App testing is literally getting it on your phone and then testing it with a small group of people. So when I say beta launch, it means you're sending the link out to your app to download just to a small amount of people. And then app on your app store and your phone, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Like when I talk about an app being on the app store or on your phone, that means it's the finished, polished version that you use. So everybody that has a TikTok account, they're using that TikTok code, downloading it on their phone, and then using it from the app store, right? So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, you are downloading a piece of code onto your phone and then using it, right? So that one's pretty self-explanatory. I won't spend any more time, but we still got TikTok suggestions coming in. I love it, but make sure it doesn't distract you as well. So get back on the talk if you're getting distracted. So to give a warning here, this is a quick overview. It gets more messy and gets more in the weeds than I can get to on this talk. So make sure that you don't take any of this story or any of this kind of process as linear, because it changes every project you do. So the story that I'm going to walk through could be way different for someone else, or way different for another team that builds their ideas. So just know that this is one experience, and I hopefully can color in some of the confusion or maybe less understanding of things that maybe misconceptions you have about building an app. But if you already know this stuff and you get bored, that's fine too. So I'll try to keep it interesting here. So this is the company I work at. It's called Relay. It's a public safety app. So people have non-emergencies or emergencies that right now they can't just send into their local police department or emergency services. And so Relay is basically an idea that came from a police chief in Fishers, where police want to be safe and take non-emergency calls or emergency calls through their phones and through the easiest means necessary, which is like some kind of software. And right now people are calling into 911 or non-emergency lines and saying they have a problem. I lost my cat, or there's a suspicious vehicle outside my house. These kind of non-emergencies or less important, not less important, but maybe non-emergency type calls should actually be going to the non-emergency line, which if you live in Indianapolis, I would dare you to tell me what the non-emergency line number is for Indianapolis. So basically the idea that the police chief had is, why isn't there an app as simple as Uber to, ask for help and communicate with local law enforcement and emergency services. So Relay is that. It's an app that you just take a picture, send in a message, and communicate with local community law enforcement, but also non-emergency personnel. So, I would use the app and I would send something in and I get response right away from local law enforcement. That's the goal. So that's the company I'm working at, and that's the idea. And that idea alone, with some work, helped us connect with this company called High Alpha, which I actually worked at before Relay, that invested, along with others, invested money in that idea. So one point to make here, and one point to kind of get you guys thinking is, if you have a good enough idea and you have enough conviction, enough resources and accessibility to the right people, you can get a lot of money from that and invest it into your idea. So if you have a good enough idea and you sell it well enough to the right people, and enough people are passionate about your idea, you can build a team and start building that app or that idea. So keep that in mind as you go through your career, your education. Ideas are powerful, but you also have to execute on those ideas. So that's the story I'm going to tell here. So let's go through the process. Hopefully some of these GIFs or GIFs, however you say it, are funny. If they're not, all good. I won't hurt my feelings at all. But I'm going to walk you now through the story of how Relay got started. Please, again, ask questions or throw some comments, questions into the chat so I can answer them at the end. Every product, every app that you have on your phone started as an idea, right? TikTok was just an idea. Uber was just an idea. Like, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if you could get picked up on the side of the road anywhere and have help? Relay started as that as well. So I already went through the story, but the police chief at Fishers had an idea to help connect his community and law enforcement in a better way. That was the idea. How can we do that? Maybe it wasn't fleshed out yet, but they knew they wanted some kind of app or a way to communicate with people in an easier way. So the police chief got some friends together and brainstormed with them about this idea. That led them to actually building a first version of this for just Fishers, and they launched it and they got good reception. They got so much good reception that High Alpha started noticing through a connection that, oh, this could be a really big thing. And so High Alpha helped the police chief, who still is connected with Relay, take that idea and really think through it. So brainstorming sessions happened. This thing called Sprint Week happened where people worked through the idea together and really collaborated on what could this be. What could this idea really be if it was launched. Yeah, it looks like Megan commented or asked a question. That's awesome. I would love to answer that question here. Thanks for that question. So what happened after the idea was pitched and High Alpha and this police officer started working together was a lot of research. So if you do your homework well enough, you probably have to go Google stuff all the time or read books or ask people questions. And that's exactly what I mean by research. The team got together that I wasn't even on at this time yet and started asking the tough questions. Should we build this app? Who are the competitors in the space? Has anyone built this app already? A bunch of questions like that. And then they started answering those slowly. So after that, here's the word that I already hopefully defined for you. They right away just got together and said, okay, we're going to hire a few designers to work on this full time for a week. And that's the Sprint Week concept, right? And a bunch of people got together, not all designers, but a few designers, and they made a very polished, very fake, but real looking app that was a prototype for them to go off of. So throughout a whole week, designers and engineers and business people got together and they made this real looking app that didn't work, but it looked real enough to work. And from that, they learned a lot. So they made the app look fake, but it was real, or it looked real, but it was fake. And they changed things. So this is the process of iteration that I mentioned earlier. Based on the feedback they got from friends and family and people in the space, police officers, as well as, people living in a community, they realized that there were some things good about the idea, the first original idea, and there were some things that maybe were out of place. And so what they did is they went back and did more research. That's a theme throughout all this. You know, if you don't know or have questions, ask them, and then let's try to figure out how we can answer them. So at this time, there's a lot more conversations happening with people in the community at this point. So calling a lot of people, friends and family, and people that they didn't even know, like homeless shelters and places in communities that you try to learn from people that are experts in this space. You know, how can we make sure police officers are safe? How can we make sure, you know, public safety officials are safe? How can we make sure the community members are safe as well? And so one thing that I want to really hopefully beat into your heads here is there's a lot of research, a lot of just, you know, questions that are asked and then they have to be answered or maybe answered at a later time. So you're always doing research, whether that's a Google search or reading academic papers, or more importantly, just going to talk to people. After that process, the next step that went on was actually, okay, let's step back and let's quickly try to redo some of the original high fidelity designs that we did and try to really make it quick and easy. So low fidelity wireframes happened here because it was kind of back to like, let's go back to the whiteboard. Let's go back to phase one here, just sketching out ideas, and let's iterate, let's change some things that we learned already. So again, this process is maybe design something really nice looking, and then when you really want to step away and you want to kind of redesign or think critically through one feature, you redesign it in a very low fidelity way. So it could be a chalkboard in this little GIF, but it also could be, you know, more realistically, it's a whiteboard or a digital tool that you can use really quickly. So it looks like we have another question from Megan. Thanks for continuing to ask those questions. And again, what happened after the low fidelity was designed? More questions, more research, more investigation if this was the right idea to do. And the questions were asked in a way that it was like, okay, we're feeling conviction behind this idea. We're feeling encouraged by, you know, exploring this space, that there needs to be something in this space. And so what happened from the low fidelity wireframes is we took them right back to a higher quality, polished look, right? So here's, I think it's Rihanna, you know, looking fine. And the high fidelity wireframes that we designed were not only, you know, screens on your phone that looked real, but they're also starting to look like a real app. You know, we had things you could click on and it would change to another screen. And so this was like really looking real, and we felt enough conviction. I'm on the team at this time to continue building. So what happens after that is prototyping. There's a robot fail. If any of you are looking for something to do after this, look up robot fails on YouTube. They're funny as heck. But essentially what you do at this point is you prototype. So you create real screens on a phone, but the screens aren't coded. They're just pictures that you put on someone's phone, and then you build a fake version of it where people can tap on their screen, and it takes you mock the entire experience, and you kind of Wizard of Oz it, right? If you've seen the movie Wizard of Oz, there's actually someone behind the curtain pulling all the strings and making things happen. And that's kind of what you do as a designer. You fake things to try to get a real reaction out of people that might use your app. And you do that through prototyping and testing key features. So, you know, for Relay, it was, hey, do we think people will actually send in, you know, messages to police? And so we would say, like, yes, we can confirm that people want to send in messages, but most people want to send a picture as well. Like, hey, look at this thing in our neighborhood. Like, there's a poor puppy sitting outside my window. Like, take a picture of that. So that informed us of how to design the entire app, right? Being able to test those key features with real people. So this is what I like to call coding cowboy. This is actually where you start coding and you start building it. So our team at Relay at this point was 6 or 7 of us, and we were a small team still. I was the only designer. We had one product manager who basically is like looking over the whole team and making sure people are doing the right things. We had a CEO that was, you know, trying to handle more of the money side and the startup side of how can we make money off this, how can we make key relationships, and how can we raise more capital and funding to continue to work on this. Then we had 2 engineers and myself, as well as a, you know, customer support person and a marketing person. So this is where people start coding. So here's something I don't want y'all to miss. Thanks for the questions here. Looks like Amara. I don't want you to miss about this. We didn't start coding for maybe 6 months, 3 to 6 months in. And so it was really important that the business people, the engineering team, and the designer got together and faked it till they couldn't fake it no more. And that the reason that you do that is because engineers are really expensive to have on your team, and you don't want to pay them until you have a conviction and confirm some like questions about the idea, right? So me as the designer, I'm working with a team to design this app and make it look real, but until you have like conviction around the idea, you don't actually bring in the engineering team. Sometimes this isn't true. Some people just build right away, but this is like the way it happened for Relay, and this is also the convictions and kind of rules I follow. Like, if you can make something work and look real and then get feedback on it and do it really quickly, that's usually the best way to go about it. So at this time, we had Kyle and Jason, engineers at Relay, starting to build it. We also had other people helping us out at the time. And then guess what we did after that? While Jason and Kyle and other members were coding, we meaning me and the project manager, went back and did more research. So this is when it was really fun. We started doing ride-alongs with police officers. We actually rode in their police vehicles. We started doing ride-alongs where we would go to the 911 dispatch center. So 911, what's your emergency? We were actually sitting with them and experiencing what it's like to be a 911 call dispatcher. On the other side, we went to homeless shelters and went to government officials, and we went to community leaders and went to just neighbors in our own neighborhoods and asked them if they would use this thing. We got some really strong reactions both ways. People were really excited about it, and some people hated it. Like, they're like, this is an intrusion. Like, I don't want people, sorry, that's a timer. I don't want people taking pictures of me in my neighborhood and sending them in to the police, like snitching on me, or I don't like the police. I don't want them around. You know, I don't want EMS, emergency services, or fire departments to know where something was reported. So we got some really convicted people on both sides giving us feedback, and we learned from that, and we, you know, continue to learn from that today. But that's part of what a designer does, is you actually go out and talk to people. You actually kind of be a psychologist or a researcher in some ways, and you try to learn what people really need. You know, people in tech a lot of times try to build things that people don't need, and that's one thing I realized through working here at Relay is we always need to have conviction around the idea, but we also need to have conviction around that people actually need this service. You know, you don't want to build it for no one. So from there, you got Rihanna, again, you have more high fidelity screens, so more polished, real looking screens being designed. And at this point, the engineers are already coding away, right? So they're coding as I'm designing more screens, and we kind of work off each other. You know, I design something and they code it, and I say, that looks great. And they say, thanks. And we continually do that, right? The goal with the designer is hopefully you're working a little bit ahead of the engineering team so that they are building from the screens you design. You know, you're showing them something, say, hey, look at this. And they say, okay, I'm going to, you know, code the back end of this. I'm going to do the databases, and I'm going to do the interactions that actually move. They actually are in the code building it, the code that you will eventually download onto your phone when you're a user. And so from that, we keep doing user testing. You know, you have a lot of moments with user testing where you show something to someone and they hate it, or they don't understand it, or they get confused, as well as people say, yeah, this is exactly how I'd use it. So one example of that is thanks, Brett, for the question. One example of that is the photo stuff, right? We were unsure if people wanted that, but we showed them a fake looking real version of the app. And we realized right away that people were sending photos, you know, a third of the time maybe. So it was, you know, data that we had to use to make decisions based off that. So as we do this stuff, the coders are still coding away. There you go. You got your coding cats in the background there, or to the side there. And we're getting to the end here. So I promise we're almost done. If you've been on TikTok this whole time because I distracted you, I'm sorry. Come back to us here. We'll learn something together the last couple minutes we have. So the test flight in Google, test flight's what Apple calls their essentially testing program, where engineers and coders and developers upload the code to TestFlight, and Google has their own version of this. And basically they're like the judges. Google and Apple say, okay, we can have this app on our app store, or no, this isn't cool. You cannot have this on our app store. And so this is the moment of truth where you might have built a whole app and then they say, no, like you can't use this code, or you can't use this feature, or you know, design or develop this feature because of this reason. And so there's a lot of tension and you know, frustrations sometimes there, but lucky for us, we got ours through TestFlight and Google's version of that pretty quickly. Again, throw some questions in here because we're getting towards the end. So if you have any questions, get them out there. And so last couple things here, when you upload that code and Apple says, okay, this looks great, you actually start sending out the app to a few select people. So friends, family, people you've met along the way, and they're called alpha and beta testers. And what they do is they critique the app, they download it and say, hey, this is broken, this doesn't work. Or they say, hey, this looks great, love it. And they give you feedback. And the reason you do this, or the reason we did it, is because we wanted real feedback about our features and if people actually could use it and if it worked, right? So you do this almost as a test for your launch. And then if all goes well, you get people's reactions to it and you fix the bugs. So if you've heard of fixing bugs and you don't know what that means, it's basically you fix the problems with the app and the code. Just like this GIF is showing you, you've got to fix things as it goes, right? So the beta testers or alpha testers are getting really upset and annoyed by this, and you've got to fix it. And then finally, you launch to a wider group of people. So you put it on the App Store, and everyone downloads it. You can go to the App Store right now and type in Relay Safety, and you can download the app I'm talking about. Shout out to Relay. And we as the team start seeing how people use it. We see the stats on how many people download it. We see the stats on feedback forms that you can rate an app. We start seeing people's reaction to it. And from that, thanks for the question, Claire. From that, you learn. And guess what you do? You do this process all over again. And this is the process of iteration, right? That word that I keep saying, like, you don't just launch your app and it's up there and you just walk away. You have to continually improve it. You have to continually do more research. You have to continually ask people why they don't understand your app, or answer questions why people feel passionately that they like it or don't like it. And so this is this seems very linear to you. This seems very, do step 1, 2, and 3, but this changes for every project you have. So again, this is a high level overview of everything. And if you have any questions, hit me up, y'all. My name's Hayden Mills. Once again, I'm a designer here in town. I call myself a digital product designer, which means I do anything from designing, the websites to the apps to, brochures, marketing materials, graphic design type stuff. So here's my email if you all want to chat more, and obviously follow me on TikTok, right? Follow me on Insta, whatever, Twitter, if you want to ask questions there. Yeah, feel free to screenshot this screen if you want my contact information. There you are. All right. If you all don't have any questions, looks like we have some, but if you don't have any more, feel free to send me some more TikTok recommendations. But for the people that have asked questions, let's get to some of them. Let's see, this ends at 1:45, so it looks like we have just under 10 minutes to answer questions here. And so let's go with the first one that was asked. Samuel says, what apps have you made? Great question. So by apps, I assume you mean mobile phone apps, but there's also these things called web apps, which are basically websites that do stuff. So a web app would be Uber's version of Uber on the desktop, so on your laptop. And the mobile version, the phone app would be the one you use on your phone. So I've made and designed a lot of phone apps, probably 20 different ones, and I would say only probably 5 have actually made it to the App Store. So that whole process I walked through, maybe only a handful of them actually made it and been launched. Let's see, I've designed different like Christian apps. So there was like a memory verse one, there was a donation one for local churches. What else? There's a health app that I worked on in high school or college. That was to help people track different medical reminders. Yeah, those are some of the phone apps. Some of the web apps that I've worked on have been probably over 100 of them. Not 100, maybe 50. I guess there's websites and then there's web apps. So websites, I've probably built 50 of those as well. Web apps, I've probably built the same. So apps that I built just in the last few years has obviously been Relay. There's different apps, web apps that we have for Relay. So there's probably 2 or 3 of them there. Designed a podcasting web app recently. So just a bunch of stuff. I won't bore you with the details there. Megan asked, I have an interesting thought about this company you work for. Do they also monitor driving services, as in if the driver has a suspicious issue? That's a great question. As you guys, as fast pizza deliverers, everyone's curious about the response time. So I'll take the first one first. I have an interesting thought. No, they don't monitor Lyft or Uber, but if you were in one of those and you had, some suspicious driver or freaky kind of feeling about the person, you would, take a picture or just chat through Relay, and it could, it would go to the right local agency. So we have agencies such as Indianapolis PD that use us, and they get it right away. So as soon as you take the picture or message through Relay, Indianapolis PD responds to that. So the nearest officer gets that, and they are dispatched to it. In jurisdictions where we don't have the agency connected to us, we actually just, on behalf of the person sending it in. So if you were to send in a picture of an Uber driver, a message saying this person's creepy, I'm suspicious, I need help, it would go to the nearest, it would go to us, and then we'd get to the nearest local agency, so we do the handing off in that instance. And then, are you guys as fast as pizza delivery drivers? It depends, right? So for IMPD, they might have more different ways to do it, but if you report something through Relay, I don't know what the average time is, but it's fairly quick. And again, it depends on what you report. So right now we're only taking out emergencies to make sure we're not like too important of messages yet, but in the future, potentially we'll take emergencies. So non-emergencies can take, 1 minute to resolve, or it can take, multiple hours depending on the emergency. Megan says or asks, do you have to go through the process of investing or endorsements? Can you create an app on a spur of a whim, or is it similar to the literature publishing process? I don't really admittedly know the literature publishing process, but I can guess essentially what you're kind of getting at. Yeah, it depends, right? There's a lot of people, including myself, that have built apps for the web that just do it themselves. So I have a side project called Font Pair. It's about typography. I built that myself in my shed, in my basement, and it's just me. I build the website and launch it, and it takes me 2 months to do that. It's really more simple than something like Relay. And so for me, I didn't need any money. I just used the time that I had and the skills that I had, and I built it, and then it got a little popular, and I have people coming to the website. For bigger businesses, more like, I guess, complex problems that you're trying to solve, like Relay, you would usually try to get investors to give you money to work on it. And then in exchange for the money that you get, so say you get $1 million funding round, you give them a percentage of the company that they could cash in later when you are successful. So it's essentially like they are hopeful that you'll make them more money in the future. Hopefully that is clears that up. So yes, you can create an app on this if you have the skills. So shout out Nextech, make sure you're making those computers in the classes you have. Looks like we have 3 minutes left, so I'll keep going through these. Keep asking questions, and if I don't get to them, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer questions by email, or if I can connect you to people in town here. Definitely, if you're interested in anything that Nextech provides, like let's chat about that. I can connect you to the right sources there. Amara asks, in your opinion, how can someone keep motivation throughout a project of any kind? That's a great question. For example, the Font Pair project that I do on my own, I lose motivation to build it a lot. And so I, admittedly, sometimes I'll work on it for a couple months and then quit and then pick it right back up. So how can you keep motivation through that? I think you have to have an interest or a passion for the space. So, I'm motivated and interested in typography. So Font Pair is something I like to do, but it's not my full-time job. Relay is my full-time job because I'm passionate about helping people. And I really believe in the idea that, a lot of stuff's happened this year with police brutality and racism and really sad things that I'm sure you all have noticed and witnessed and maybe experienced, sadly. And I think, I believe that Relay can be not the solution for that, but I believe we can help solve some of that. So, I believe that keeping officers safe is smart sometimes. So if you don't have an emergency and you just want to communicate with an officer, especially during COVID, it's cool that you can just message them on Relay and you don't have to even see each other in person. So on the other side of that, maybe you're uncomfortable about talking to an officer on the phone, or you're uncomfortable with them visiting you, but you like to chat with an officer, you like to chat with some safety professional. You can do that really discreetly on Relay. And so I'm passionate about both sides of those problems and all the things that come with them. And that's why I do Relay full time. So my long-winded answer to that is find something you're passionate about doing. If you like plants and you're really passionate about growing plants and you want to create an app that helps people grow their plants, do that. If you're really passionate about Pokemon, make some cool Pokemon thing if you're not ready, if you're not infringing on trademarks. So we'll do one more question here, and then 1:45 will be here and we'll be done. Brett says, how secure available are jobs in the computer science space? Oh, wow. If you take a risk and work on your own startup company, do you usually have a backup job option? Yeah. So the reason I say wow is, Brett, there's so many jobs available in Indiana right now for developers and designers and people that come up through computer science. So if you want a job in technology, computer science is a great way to get that experience in college or in your high school experience. And then working at a startup with 6 people and getting paid well, but knowing that if you don't get a next funding round, or knowing that if you're not successful, you could lose your job, is scary. But again, it comes back to the passion. It comes back to how you have conviction around the idea. If you really think it will work, you see it through and you hopefully succeed. But the realistic part of it is what you're asking, right? Like 1 in 10 startups, I believe, fail from some statistic I've read. You can confirm or deny that on Google, but it's more likely that your startup. But I see a fun adventure that you can either kind of work safely, or you can work in things that you're passionate about, and sometimes that takes you to unsafe areas or unsafe jobs. So it's really about what you want in a job. If you just want to go to a big tech company and make a lot of money, and you like that or enjoy that or feel passionate about that, there's nothing against that. But if you also want to work for a startup and see something from an idea all the way to an actual app, it's really intoxicating and addicting to do that because it's so fun. It's also really stressful. So having a backup is great, but the experiences you learn at a startup kind of prepare you for your next job too, right? Because you learn at such a fast pace. So I'm 1 minute over. It seems like the next thing, sorry if I couldn't get all your questions. You can keep putting them in the chat until you all leave, and I'll hopefully be able to see them all. And if you want to email me them, that's fine too. But here's my contact information. Really enjoyed talking to y'all. Hopefully you learned something from this. Thanks for coming to my session.